Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Einav Avni. I'm an energy healer and an alignment coach. And this podcast is all about bringing natural healing hope to those who need it, mainly, of course, people with chronic conditions. But let's get started. Today in the studio with me, I have Michal Spiegelman. Michal, welcome. So lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much, Einav. I was looking forward to be here with you.
Same here. So let's get started. Tell us anything about you.
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm giving lots of podcast interviews, but that's the first one that I'm giving after my book was released. Just a week ago, my book Becoming Soulful was released. You can see the cover. If you watch us through video, you see the cover on the wall behind me. And I think it's a milestone for me, really, to release a book. And I believe that it's not about like my personal achievement in writing a book. I believe that there is a message in this book that is really, really important for me to deliver, and mainly this message is going to help people heal better. And when I listen to your podcast, you cover so many different layers and so many different aspects of healing. There is like such a rich world of resources out there that it can get confusing and overwhelming. And I think that when I look at my work, this evolution of my work. I mean, I'm a social worker in my background, who got maybe disappointed by how narrow-minded were the skills that I had as a social worker. So I expanded my understanding of healing and my expertise to something a lot more holistically. But now this evolution of my work is really to empower people to rely on their internal guidance system to help them navigate anything in life. But when we think about navigating a recovery process, navigating a healing process, let's say that someone is suffering from chronic conditions or from pain or from anything related to health, then I find that it can be very overwhelming just process all the information that is out there about everything, and it can get so confusing. What should I do? Should I do what this doctor says? Should I do what this healer said? This person said to me, oh, don't even go there. What should I do? And I think that the answer for me is looking within, connecting with our soul and with our internal guidance system, and accepting responsibility to navigate the healing process, the recovery process, the managing process, if we live with chronic situations, to navigate it guided by our internal wisdom. And wisdom lives in our soul. And my hope is to inspire your audience to rely on this internal guidance system, because there's so much wisdom there and it can really light up the path for us.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, and I totally agree. I hear it again and again that really, a person notices a change in the conditions. They feel the symptoms. They're uncertain what's going on. Of course, there's a lot of fear, and they start going to the doctors and they believe the doctors, and then they get really confused. And like you say, what should I listen to? Who should I listen to? What should I follow? But I think I also, of course, love what you're saying about going inside and finding your own wisdom. But this is sometimes that I also notice that people get confused with that, because like some people think that like the negative voice is actually the voice of the intuition. So how do we make sense of that? How do we know which voice to follow and which one is actually
Right. Yeah. And just to circle back on something you said that could get confusing, I just want to clarify that I'm not saying in any way don't follow doctor's orders. Like, I think that Western medicine saves life, and there are many situations when it's a combination of a physical imbalance that needs to be addressed by the Western medicine, but there is always an emotional component to that. You know that, from your expertise, there is always an emotional component. There is always an opportunity, a spiritual lesson, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn. And then it needs to be a combination of working with the medical professionals, the Western philosophy, the Western medicine, but also, like I said, finding holistic ways to help you heal and listening to this voice within. And maybe before I answer your question about how do we know if which voice to follow, I want to just elaborate a little bit on what do I mean when I say holistic approach, and to expand, our maybe narrow mind approach that the Western medicine can offer. So, for example, you mentioned fear. When there is a health crisis, it's very natural that fear will come up, sometimes even anxiety. And when we are overwhelmed with the emotions, with the fear, what do you think is the like some immediate tendencies? How do people deal with the fear or with the extreme emotions, like based on your experience?
They shut down. They go inside. They freeze.
They freeze, they shut down. Some people actually become hyper, and they get into an obsessive, either cleaning or working or getting themselves busy. Some people escape into unhealthy behaviors like emotional eating, and so there are so many different ways. And I think the first step when we face a health crisis or a health challenge is to be aware, like to pause for a minute, to stop for a minute, and to observe ourselves and to say, hey, what is really happening right now? Why am I just eating the whole day and I'm like unplugging from communicating with my family members? Or why am I so hyper right now? And to be aware that the behavior that we experience is actually the way we respond to the emotions, to the fear, to the frustration, to the sadness, to the anger. And it's a natural tendency, a universal natural tendency to do whatever we can to avoid connecting with the emotions, because where there are emotions, there is pain. So the way I see it is that we need to pause, to be aware, to see how we are escaping or numbing, which is something that many of us learned growing up. And then instead of do what is automatic for us and push away the emotions, push away the fear, push away the frustration, push away the sadness, to actually accept the emotions, meet them. I always say, invite them to have a cup of tea with you, meet them, not to let them take over, and yet to make friends with them, to make space for them. And I think it's a really, really important part. I meet people with chronic conditions that got so used to be angry, to be pissed, and yet they're not making space for the emotions. So when we're taking holistic approaches, we understand that our emotional state is so important. Any physical condition can get worse or can get better by how we're handling it emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you say. Yes, I
So
think
now,
yeah.
no, go ahead. I want to hear you.
Then I was just kind of thinking about some of the people that I work with or that I've had conversations with, and I know that this is a lot of the time is really the main thing, that are you allowing your emotions to come out? Are you still angry? Are you in victim mode? All of this is like, really, this is one of the most important most most important layers of where the conversation really needs to go if you want to heal. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Exactly. And now, building on that, to your question, how do we know if we listen to the right voice? How do we know if we listen to the voice of our negative fear or our intuition? So it's important to make space first for the emotions, because the fear, the sadness, all those wounded voices that we have inside us that try to protect us, they will be triggered. When something happens to us, they will be triggered. Now, if I'm in fear and I'm not aware about the fear, and I'm resisting the fear. Let's say I'm resisting the fear or any other emotion, and I try to connect internally and connect with my soul, connect with my wisdom. It's not going to work because the emotions get in the way. So the first step is really to make space for the emotions, to be aware that we have the emotions. Something really interesting happens when once we make space for them. And it can be very simple, like to close our eyes and place our hands on our body and just breathe. Breathing really connects us to our body, and just feel, just feel the emotions, and then start talking to them and say, okay, here you are, fear. I see that you're here. I give you lots of compassion. It's perfectly okay that you're here. To really dialogue with them, whether we write it in our journal or just talk internally. And something really interesting happens once we make a space for the emotions. They naturally shift because we release the resistance and we accept them. So the first step is really to make space for the emotions. And then we want to connect. We want to connect to create what I call a vertical connection. When we connect with the divine, we connect with something bigger than us. When we create some type of a spiritual connection, so it clears our channel, because we're all, even you and I are healers. I have a huge community of healers, and I always tell them we are not the healers. We're just a channel. Our job is to clear our channel. So once we create this connection, we are connected to the earth. We're grounded in the earth, and we are connected above and below. Then through this connection, and because we make space for the emotions, then there is some quiet that we can then go within and start listening to those voices. So there should be some practices in place to help us connect to something bigger than us. For me, my main practice for almost 30 years is Reiki. When I treat myself with Reiki, even just 5 minutes of aligning with the universal energy, I'm connected, and then I can start listening within. But it doesn't have to be Reiki. It can be different practices that connect us with life force energy. And once we are connected, it really helps us to step out of the way, clear our channel, and then connect with this internal world, what I called our internal guidance system, and hear the guidance.
Mm. I like what you're saying. Of course, I like what you're saying. I think that, like you say, there's a lot of rewards, I guess, that they come when you really do, when you are able to quieten the voices, to quieten the doubts and the fears, and to listen to that something inside
Right,
of you that has the answers. It's
right.
yeah. I mean, it just that I guess it sounds like I'm doubting or something, but I'm not. I'm just I can
No,
I
I
mean,
like you to challenge me. I like you to challenge me. Go ahead, challenge me. I love that.
yeah, just I'm just bringing the voice of my clients, because one thing is that a lot of actually quite a lot of the time they go through the emotions, right? And they say I do this, I say I journal, I go through, and what a lot of the time they're finding is that they're not able to actually say, like you say, bring it to the table and have a cup of tea, or really go there. So they say I'm doing it, but then that they're not
Yeah,
managing to
they
actually
right.
go.
Of course, they don't have the results. So I do want to tell you that this part of the puzzle of like connecting within is part of a more complex,
Mm,
maybe system or a framework that took me really 30 years
mm,
to to understand it because of my own trauma and health crisis that I had to face, but also through all my clients. And I want to say something about the framework that I present in my book, because I think it provides the answer to the doubt and the hesitation that you bring up. So in my book, 6 Keys for Profound Transformation, I take the reader through a journey. There are 6 keys that once we go through these 6 keys, we really get to a point where we feel guided by this internal guidance system, and we can navigate the process of recovery or healing from whatever we have in a very wise way. So key number 3, authenticity, talks about the connection with your soul, what we now discussed. And in key number 3, in my book, I explain the process, what questions to ask your soul, how to get quiet, how to really get answers from your soul, and how do you know if the answers are coming from your soul or coming from fear, for example. This is key number 3. But I truly believe, based on my experience, that we need to go through the 6 keys. It's not like we can take like one piece. Let's say you have a client and you say to them, okay, here's your homework now. Sit every day, journal, connect to your soul, listen to your intuition, and write down what comes up. They're completely in a different world. They're disconnected from their internal resources. They feel unworthy. They have lots of limiting beliefs. Their vitality level is low. They're leaking life force. There's so many issues. It's not going to work. It really needs to be a practice that is a gradual practice that you're developing. And I mentioned that the 3rd key is soul, connecting with your soul. I want to talk for a minute about the 1st and the 2nd key, because I think it's important to go through them before we get to the point of like, okay, sit, journal, listen to the inner voices. So the 1st key is the key of empowerment. And in the key of empowerment, I present practical ways to connect to your inner resources, inner gifts, and inner attributes so you can get empowered. For example, there is an exercise in my book when you have a list of values and you need to choose your values to help you through this journey. Now, I want to give you an example, a recent example from a client. She's actually a therapist who suffers from loss of chronic conditions, autoimmune disease. And she tried to do everything. And she did value work many times before. And what happens is that because part of my work is to help the person to connect with their soul and get answers from within, when I took her through the empowerment key, through the value exercise, I asked her to close her eyes. And I took her through a guided visualization. And through this guided visualization, she really connected emotionally with how it feels like when she's healed, when she's 6 months from now and she completely feels different than now. And when we debriefed after the guided visualization, she said that she felt so free in her body, and the word freedom came up. And she also said that she felt energized. The result of this conversation was that we came up with 2 words, really important words. One was freedom and one was vitality. She could really feel it in her body, what it feels like when she has more vitality and when she feels free. Now go back to the exercise of the values. One of the values she came up with was health. Now makes sense. You have autoimmune disease. Of course, one of your values will be health. I asked her, how does it feel in your body? Now close your eyes, connect to your body, connect to your soul. How does it feel when you say health is important for me? She said, it's a little threatening. Like, what if I don't get healthy? And then what came up of this conversation was that she's setting aside health as a value, and instead she's bringing in vitality and freedom. And she said to me, I did this exercise many times before, and it never crossed my mind until I felt it in my body and felt this connection that freedom and vitality will become such important values for me. Now, key number 5 in my book is vitality. And after we were done with our work together, and she's doing so much better physically, emotionally, in all areas, she said to me, vitality was so meaningful for me. Just the idea that I am leaking life force and I can actually take care of those leaks and raise my vitality level, that set her up to such a successful healing, with herself. So I'm sharing this to show that there are so many little pieces to this puzzle. So it's not like, okay, come now, connect to your soul. Connecting to our soul is a practice that we learn to do as we connect to our values and attributes. We get empowered as we raise our vitality. That is such an important, one of the most important actions that any person who wants to get healthier can take, is to identify leaks in life force and then to raise the vitality. So it's a complex, really, process, which I really teach in my book. And when I take people through processes of connecting with their souls and receive healing, then they get a clear path of like all the keys, all the steps that they need to take from to really create a holistic healing.
Mm. I think it's so powerful to recognizing the leaks, because sometimes we talk about toxicity, and sometimes we talk about things that not working for us, or people that we shouldn't be with. But when you're talking about, when you bring in leaks, and you can really, you connect with something on a different level, and this is really where right, you really know what some of these holes are.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Right. And there's so many things that there's so many reasons. I mean, there is a section in my book when I talk about why we leak life force energy. You would think it's maybe just stress or life demands, but there's so many things. Trauma, unaddressed trauma, we leak life force, overcommitting, unresolved conflicts, excessive screen time, poor time management, and of course bigger things like stress and emotional strain, or like if you live, if you're affected by the collective energy. There's so much going on in the world. Many of us are affected by the collective energy, the news, politics, wars, all this. It's like we're leaking life force energy all the time. So then going back to what you said about, okay, maybe I tell my client to sit, go inside. Maybe this client, before they even connect to their soul and receive their guidance, they need to address the leaks. And the first thing they need to do is to raise their vitality level, find a way to raise their vitality level, because when we function on a high vitality level, everything becomes easier, even connecting with our soul and know if it's the negative voices or our soul speaking.
Mhm. In your view, is vitality and energy in this sense, is it the same or different? I mean, because we all the time talk about raising your energy, but is that the same thing for you as vitality, or do you
So,
think different?
in my book, the way I define it, I'll just read something from my book. I say that life force energy is believed to be the energy that flows through all living things, and it can be measured in human and animals by their overall vitality. Our bodies are constantly absorbing and releasing energy. When we are depleted or lacking life force, it can manifest in physical symptoms such as fatigue, illness, or even depression. So I think that if we see life force energy as this energy that flows through us all the time, but we can measure it, but our vitality level, then our vitality level can also be how, I bring the soul language again. What do we do to fill up our soul? What do we do to make ourselves feel better? What do we do, things that we love, not only things that will, let's say, give us more energy, like you would say, like exercise definitely will give us more energy, right? Or eating, food choices. definitely will influence our energy level. In vitality, it's a little bit different vibration. It's very similar, but it's a little bit different vibration because, for example, this client of mine, once she connected to freedom as one of her values, she started to think, every day, what can I do today to feel freer? How can I feel freer? And then it was like magic, really, because she started to make small changes in her life to just feel freer once she gave herself permission. And then she started to feel better. And then week after week, she will come back and say, I feel so much more energized, but it's not just my energy, she said. I'm just happier. I feel freer. So I would say vitality adds a vibration that's a little higher to the word energy or energy level.
Yeah, I see. Thank you. So I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about you. Where did it all come from? What piqued your interest to go to follow that path of enlightenment? Really.
Yeah, so like many of us, trauma got me on this path, and different types of trauma, definitely growing up in a war zone. But I think one of the turning points or the main things that led to me doing this work was I was pregnant 8 times, and I have two wonderful adult children, young adult children, but 6 of the pregnancies ended in the 6th or 7th month. So I lost 6 pregnancies, and I went to labor every time because it was an early labor. So when I had my 2 children, I actually got depressed because of all the grief that I carried from all the babies that I lost. And at that point, I was already a social worker, and I seek help from professional, from a therapist. And the therapist, she wasn't trauma informed, and she didn't understand what I know today and you know today. The trauma lives in the body, and we need to also address the trauma that lives in the body. So the process with her was just a mental work, just talk therapy. And I learned from it so much. One of the messages in my book is talk therapy is not enough. And when I saw that I am not getting the results that I need, realizing that the grief that I carry in my body needs to be addressed, and the trauma that I carried from the pregnancies and how they stopped, especially one of the pregnancies that stopping the pregnancy was very traumatic and I almost died. And it was only when I found a way, and professionals helped me, which is what I help now others, to address the trauma that was stored in the body and to release my grief, that I could just be happy and appreciate my kids that I had. So then fast forward, I started to be on a quest of expanding my toolkit and my understanding of healing. And I'm a Reiki master for many years. I learned color healing in England, and shiatsu in Germany, and many different certifications, and reflexology and aromatherapy and meditation. And with the years, I created my own signature process for healing. It's called the journey into the soul. And I think that looking back at my journey, my soul was empty. I was missing, I was lacking joy really from within, even when I had my 2 children, because of all the trauma and the grief that I carried and they weren't really addressed. So when I take people through the journey into the soul, what's really amazing to see is that they receive guidance from the soul that many times is unexpected. By the way, that's a hint to the question that you asked, that the guidance we receive from the soul can be surprising or unexpected, something that we wouldn't think about or expect. And what I've seen many times, that the guidance they receive from their soul, like, for example, how to get to the core of this issue, is going back to trauma or grief or loss that was not addressed. So I think my personal story really led me to find this way, and then to create my Soulful Healer method, which I now share with others.
Mm. I love that. I love that. I know that this is a very, very well. It's a question that I keep hearing people talk about. How do you move into that next level when you've been on a spiritual path or spiritual growth for a while,
Right.
and how do you move, I don't know, forward,
Yeah.
higher, deeper?
Right. Right.
Really.
And Ainava, if it's okay with you, I just thought about something. I do want to maybe, I feel like I owe you an answer, even though I gave a more bigger answer. But, in my book, I present some questions that make sense to ask the soul. And one of the things that I explain is that the questions that you ask your soul shouldn't be like day-to-day questions. It should be bigger questions that are related to purpose and meaning and learning, because our soul's purpose is to grow and to learn through us. So in the key of authenticity, connecting with the soul, I just want to I have a section here: begin the conversation, ask within, how to engage with the soul and find the right answers. So I just want to read a few questions here. So our soul yearns for learning, potential, and alignment with our higher purpose. Therefore, our questions should resonate on a higher plane than mundane concerns. Instead of asking, what do I want? Or what do I do? What should I do? Ask, what does my soul want to tell me today? What wisdom do you have for me today? What am I meant to learn here? What is this pain or fear or condition here to teach me? What is the higher lesson in this situation? And what is my spiritual lesson in this situation? So the tip that I give in my book is approach your soul with openness and without urgent expectations. Let the questions unfold naturally. Engage all your senses. Don't just listen, watch and feel. Release the need for immediate answers and trust that they will come when the time is right. And I hope this helps you to understand.
Yes.
But again, there is a whole process in the book that really takes you through the process. But I love the question. So
Yeah. Well, it's very clear to me that I should get the book and read it and understand a little bit more of the process. It's But what you just read also reminds me of some of the conversations that I'm having with people, and this is really a question about purpose. And the reason why it's about purpose is because people feel like they're missing something, and they've been seeking it for such a long time, and they still don't have the answer. And then these are the kind of questions to ask, right? It's really wait before I say that, I want to say that when you look for the purpose, you sometimes don't realize that it's probably not what you're doing right now. I guess it's if you're working in IT, for example, and you love your job, then sure, it's a good job, and you know some days are good, some days are not good. But I have a hunch that this is not necessarily your purpose, right? Your purpose, the way I say it, is that is usually meant to bring service or inspiration or motivation for others. There's always more than just what I'm doing right now. So there are people that are not even they're not even there. They're really looking for the purpose, but they believe that the purpose is going to be where they are right now. And with what you just read, it's really that introduction to say it's bigger than that. It's not necessarily even anything that we already know, but we just need to be open for the introduction, for the
yeah,
signs of the
exactly.
of the yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say? I mean, you just read it, but would you have anything more specific to mention about purpose and people that feel like they've asked the questions but they don't even know to recognize the answer?
Yes, yes. So sometimes purpose can be finding the purpose. Like when you ask someone, "What's your purpose?" That's a very scary question,
It is.
and right, and yeah. So yeah, and it's interesting because when I help people to connect with their soul and ask a question like that, and usually the information that comes from within makes them feel so much more purposeful and have more meaning and joy. And they start to notice that maybe that's their purpose, rather than connecting purpose to what I do with my career. If we really understand that the soul's purpose is learning and expanding and growing, the soul wants us to live life to the fullest, to feel all range of emotions. For the soul, it is more important that we live a life with meaning and joy than it is that we achieve, that we have success, that we earn money. Of course, earning money is important, but the soul doesn't care about achievement, and she wants us to have meaning, purpose, and joy every day in the ordinary things. And if we find a way, and we can find a way through the empowerment, through the connection, if we find a way to connect to who we really are and to show up in the world as our true self, to wake up in the morning connecting to those values that may be freedom or love or vitality. And if we take it to our daily life and we wake up with a purpose for the day, to live life to the fullest, to and of course not to fake positivity. That's not what this is about. To make space for all the emotions, to experience them, then slowly, day by day, we feel more purposeful. We wake up with purpose. We walk with purpose, and that shines the light on like the bigger purpose. I never start with like, what's my bigger purpose when I work with people? Let's bring purpose, meaning, and joy into your life right now. The rest will just happen by itself.
Yeah. It's very. I like all of this. It's very inspiring, and I believe deeply that people really this is exactly what they want to hear right now, because it's encouraging, right? It's bite size. It's not it's not big jumps that require, well, fear to wake up. Really, it's really about exploration
Exactly.
and about finding your way. And I was wondering, as you were talking again, thinking about some of the people I have conversations with, how, because what I find is that it's not just fear, but it's victimhood, resistance, fear. I guess these words that are really keeping us stuck. Because if we are still in these levels, then we can't, we can't free the soul. We can't get in touch with it if we keep thinking, why is it happening to me? And I've tried everything and nothing works. So is there even hope? These kind of questions. And I'm not judging or dissing any. It's because I know that everyone has their own journey, and sometimes the journey is really, really, really challenging. But what is something that we can say or bring to the table so that people at least start to think about things differently? How to release all of this
Yeah,
negativity
of course.
and
Yeah. Right. So, like we said before, first we need to accept and meet all the negative voices and all the emotions. So it's important to go through the why this is happening to me. It's important to take some time. Let's say you get some news about your health condition. So to give yourself some time to be with the emotions, to cry, to be angry, to ask why me. But the question is, how long do we give ourselves the time to be there? Because pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. We need to get to a point. So first of all, just to really emphasize that we need to accept the emotion, meet them, invite them to a cup of tea, make friends with them, say it's perfectly okay that I'm in despair now. It's perfectly okay that I don't have hope. But then at the same time, to also know that it is part of our lesson and life lesson to use this challenge as an opportunity And we must get to a point when we accept responsibility, when we take the driver's seat and we say, okay, now I'm going to navigate this process, and I'm going to hear the doctors, I'm going to hear all the healers and everything, but I'm going to navigate this process. I'm not putting all the responsibility on somebody else. I have my inner resources. I just got empowered. I know my values. I know my attributes. I'm well connected to my inner resources. I'm raising my vitality level. So I'm going to navigate this process. By the way, not by myself, because I'm not only relying on my personal power, I'm also connecting to some type of spiritual power. It doesn't have to be a religious, but spiritual power. So I'm relying on this partnership between my personal power, my inner resources, and something that is bigger than me. So I'm supported. I'm creating this support around me with the empowerment, with the vitality, with the spirituality, and then I accept. I become a leader. I take a leader role in the process of the healing. I don't hand it over to somebody else, and I think that's really important. Like,
Yeah.
feel the feelings, accept them, give yourself some time to grieve, to cry, everything. But at some point, don't do it for too long, because then you continue to suffer. At some point, uh, start navigating the process yourself. And if it's hard for you, then reach out to Einav, or reach out to me, and reach out to people like us, because that's really what we do. We will help you navigate the process. We will empower you, but you must agree to do the work and accept the responsibility. And again, you don't have to do it by yourself. There are so many people like Einav and myself that will help you navigate this process, but you need to accept the responsibility and to shift from the victimhood to, okay, I'm going to navigate the ship.
Yes. This is very important, right? Is basically recognize when you go down a pity party and say, okay, I'll have the cake, but then, then I'll turn
Right,
away, basically, go and
right.
start this journey. Michal, it's been so inspiring. I think your book is going to make such a big difference for anyone reading it, and I am very curious to go through it myself. Um, thank you so much for being here. But before we go, because it's been so inspiring and so interesting chatting with you. What is one thing that you think our listeners or viewers, one message that they can take away from today's conversation? What would that
Yeah,
be?
right. I think that our soul has the potential to be a perfect guide. We have a pool of wisdom inside us, ready to guide us and to direct us. And I wish that each one of us will find a way um, to connect or to reconnect with their souls. And yeah, I think that will be the one thing. And by the way, I'm in the US, you're in the UK. I just want you to know that you can order the book in UK as well, in
Oh,
the
really?
Amazon
It's now
UK.
okay.
Yes, I have already people from Europe that ordered the book, so it's not only in the US. The only thing is that in the US, it's 1 week after the launch, and we already have like 46 reviews, and it's so great. And then in the UK, we don't have yet, because people are buying it in the US, but we have a few in the UK. So maybe you and your community can,
Yeah,
spread the light in Europe.
nice. And congratulations. I mean, congratulations for about for the book, and also 46 reviews. That's really awesome to already have that. So anyone watching or listening, of course, all of your information is going to be in the show notes, so people can definitely get the book, but also get in touch or find out more about you and your processes. Michal, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Einav. It was really fun.
Thank you.